Yep. What's up, everybody? It's been a long day. So I was begging that I had another drop of coffee left in my mug. What is up? On a Tuesday night, Flyers are up 3-0. If you're watching us live, beginning of the third period, Delco Steve is wearing his orange and black. He'll be with us in a minute. As he was just trying to explain to me how important the game was for the Flyers, and I'm like, okay. Yeah, well, they're at home. Oh, all right, that's right. I had friends on Instagram that were putting pictures out there. Yeah, I would love if this was another cup. Unfortunately, what I normally try to do is before I come downstairs to get ready or whatever, maybe like 8:15 is when I sit down. I'll have a fresh, full cup of coffee. And tonight I made it at like 6:00, and I'm like, all right, I'll save some of it. And this wasn't enough, man. One of those nights. Well, got a lot to talk about. Some Eagles subjects. March Madness. Is anybody in Philly, or do people still take off work to do the March Madness thing? I remember my first year that I worked with Mike Missinelli, 2008. I actually took 2 days off of work. I think we were broadcasting the games, and it would have been a short day. So I'm like, nah, F that. I'm going to go watch the games. And it was always so much fun. We'll talk about that coming up a little bit later. Some news today, and this is, really not that surprising if you read the tea leaves, and it's Haason Reddick. But if you're kind of reading between the lines, and what happened recently was a big indication of what's probably going to happen with Reddick. So Jeff McClain was on with John Kincaid and Andrew Shalchunas today, and he had said that he thinks it's more likely that Hasson gets traded than he comes back. He returns to the Eagles. So he had a roster bonus in his contract of $1 million that was due April 15th. So the agent and the Eagles agreed to push that back to it was March 15th. The agent and the Eagles agreed to push that back to April 1st. So why would they do that? Well, it gives them 2 weeks to buy time to figure this out, whether that means they trade him or the Eagles bring him back for $1 million, give him his $1 million roster bonus and then bring him back. I've heard people say that they could cut him because they don't want to pay him. They don't want to pay him the bonus, and he doesn't have the guaranteed money left on his contract, so they would just cut him. I've heard mid-round draft picks from teams. There's not a big market for Haason Reddick. There's teams that would be interested. I've seen the Jags. I've seen the Titans. I've seen the Falcons. I don't know how much of that is real. You see quote-unquote reporters online, and you don't know if this is just innuendo or there's actual they've checked in. I guarantee you teams have talked about Haason Reddick. He's an excellent player. But the market isn't there because he's 30 years old. And I guess the bigger thing is he wants a new contract. He's got 1 year left on his contract where he's making a reasonable sum for the 1 year. But and this is just from what I'm reading and using common sense, he wants $25 million a year. This is what top end tier 1 edge rushers, they can give you 12, 13, 14 sacks a year. It's what they command, or at least that's what they want. Doesn't seem like there's a huge market out there to give Haason Reddick 5 for 125 and $75 million guaranteed or $60 million guaranteed. It doesn't seem like teams are chomping at the bit to do that, nor are they interested in trading for Haason Reddick. You would assume that if you trade for him, he's going to want a new contract if he's going to be happy. Otherwise, why not just stay here? If the new team isn't giving him a new contract, then if you're Haason Reddick, unless you're just pissed at the Eagles, why wouldn't you just stay here? It's your hometown. You've been here. You've been very successful here. I don't know the ins and outs. Maybe that's what's going to play out over the next 2 weeks. But I'll say this, and I'll be very clear about it. The Eagles should not trade Haason Reddick. The Eagles should not release Haason Reddick. The Eagles should bring back Haason Reddick. And if that means that you need to sweeten the pot a little bit to make him happy to where he doesn't come in here really pissed off, and I'm not saying he would be a problem, but you don't want negative energy in the locker room from a guy that's mad. Chiefs did it last year with Chris Jones. He was pissed. He wasn't going to report. They came into an agreement. They give him some extra money for incentives and things like that. So I would do the same thing with Haason Reddick. And I'm not even telling you the Eagles need to sign him to a long-term contract. Because if he's asking for 25 a year for 6 years or whatever, and the Eagles are like, we're not doing that, then I'm going to trust Howie Roseman. The Eagles pay players. So if they don't think that he's worth what they're asking and Reddick's agent and they're not coming down from that price, I'm going to trust Howie Roseman in this. But I'm not trading Haason Reddick for a 4th-round draft pick. Sorry. He's their best defensive player. He's been their best defensive player. Oh, and by the way, he plays big in the playoffs too. This isn't a player that's compiling sacks against bad tackles. He's not Jason Babin. He's not an asshole like that. Haason Reddick has been one of the best free agent signings this team has made in a really long time. Haason Reddick has been fantastic. He's their best defensive player. So if this wasn't a year that Howie Roseman, again, was pushing chips in to try to win a Super Bowl, as he should be, then I would say, all right, we'll just let him walk. But I'm worried about the pass rush, and I don't give a damn about Bryce Harper, Bryce Young, Bryce Huff. Like, that's great. I'm glad they added to it. But then what? Josh Sweat? So Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham and Huff and who else do they have? I think I'm missing a defensive end here. But anyway, you get my point. This team is a much better team with Haason Reddick on it. So if it's a choice of 4th-round draft pick, if it was a second, which a team's not going to give up for 1 year of Haason Reddick and unreasonable contract demands, they'll just wait. If they like him, hey, we'll wait till free agency and then we'll give you an offer. But giving up a high draft pick for it, it's not going to happen. A 3rd, would you do it? I want Haason Reddick on this team. I don't want a 3rd-round draft pick. A 2nd would be tough to say no, especially if you don't think he's going to come back. Haason Reddick on this team next year makes your defense that much better. He's your best defensive player. And unlike the Slays, who are about the same age or whatever, like Slay's a knucklehead. I can do without Darius Slay. I don't want to do without Haason Reddick. I don't. This is a much better team with Haason Reddick on the team than without. As we bring in Delco Steve, who may not even be paying attention tonight because the Flyers are in the and the Blue Leafs they've scored a goal.
The Blue Leafs? Come on, man. You at least get the name right.
Yeah, all right. They're good.
Maple Leafs. They're all right. We're good right now. We're good right now.
All right.
We're not in panic mode yet.
All right. There you go. All right. So, I mean, what do you think, man? Haason Reddick, do you agree that the most likely scenario here, and doesn't mean that he's not going to come back, but Jeff McClain believes it's more likely he gets traded than he comes back.
Well, you made a great point. If another team's not going to give him an extension, why would you go anywhere? Stay here, be with the proven defensive coordinator this year, and go out and ball out. Maybe you get paid big time in free agency if you're looking for a best case scenario for yourself. But yeah, I wouldn't give him up for a 4th-round pick. That makes no sense. If he's going to be disgruntled there with a bad contract or here with a bad contract, just be here.
Yeah, but he may also, you know how it works. He may say,
we get the Saquon Barkley thing, and
right,
took
the words out of my mouth. If you're not going to pay me, I don't want to be here. Like, screw you guys. So, and here's what I'll say for the people out there that will say, like, but he's unhappy and you don't want an unhappy player and blah, blah. Like, the NFL is a business. Unlike the other sports that have the guaranteed contracts, this isn't uncommon to have a player or two that's unhappy with or 3 that's unhappy with their contract in the locker room. Coaches are used to it. GMs are used to it. We've seen it in the past. The players are used to it. The agents are used to it, right? I watched it. I worked with Brandon Graham. He won a Super Bowl and went into the final year of his contract without an extension. And he handled it like a friggin' pro, man.
He's the most chill dude ever, though.
Bro, he won it. He was a Super Bowl champion, had the play of the game for the only play on the defense. And he was like, hey, final year of a contract. So I said to him, I'm like, are you going to – and he also was playing with a bad ankle, if you remember. He needed surgery or some kind of shit that offseason. So he was playing with a bad wheel, and he was grinding through it. You know, he was getting – I don't know this for a fact, but you know he was getting shot up and everything to be able to make it through these games.
They all.
So, and you know what he did? And I don't think Brandon's like anybody else. he said, hey, his perspective was, I'm going to go out there and play great, and the Eagles are going to bring me back, right? Like, that's the only way I can look at it. Brandon's not a guy that's going to – he doesn't play around with his money, right? So these players aren't holding out if they're under contract because they get fined. I guess Jones is the one exception. He wasn't doing that. So I guess my point is, hey, Hasson, you've outperformed your contract. No doubt about it. You've been fantastic. Like,
do it again and make
right.
Make you unexpendable.
Right. You're under contract. Make the best of it. And if that means he sits out the mini camps or whatever, and he does this publicly, I'm totally fine with that. Like I said, the NFL is a business, and I support the players in instances like this. But if I'm Howie Roseman, I'm saying, hey, man, listen, we love you. And that's what I'm saying. Like, at least show them a little bit of good faith and say, hey, we'll give you some incentives. We'll give you, like for each 4 games you play, you get $100,000 or like, you know what I mean? Like, let him know, like, hey, we really appreciate what you've done, but we're not giving you the contract extension you want.
Yeah, you got to do a little like 50-50 action. Some of the incentives are easy to hit. Like you just said, you play a certain amount of games, you get a little bump, this, that, and the other thing. And then you give him like the long shot ones. And if he hits them, then that makes your team so much better.
Right.
Like you give him a defensive player of the year incentive. Right. And he goes out and puts up 22 sacks. Yeah, that's going to be huge.
Well, how about like 12 sacks? He gets a certain amount of money. Like make an incentive based.
That's what I'm saying. You give him some of the ones that are realistic, and then you give him some of the ones that make him want to go bananas. And then where, again, you're parlaying that into an off-season contract.
So Hasson wasn't fantastic last year. He played at the level of his contract. Well, I mean, he's been with the team for 2 years, right?
Yeah.
This is his 3rd year. Was he the player that he was the year before? No. What did he have? 16 and a half sacks, and he had 3 in the playoffs. He almost had 20 sacks.
He was like 3rd in the league in sacks.
And remember, he also he was hurt to start the season, so he had a slow start. Haason Reddick. I mean, I thought he was fantastic last year. He is their best. Is he not their best defensive player? And I know last year,
and the defense wasn't nearly as good as the year before.
Right.
So he's shouldering more burden too.
Yeah, so he's had 4 straight years, 12 and a half with the Cardinals this last year, 11 with the Panthers, 16 with the Eagles, 11 with the Eagles. Listen, he still had 11 sacks. He still had double-digit sacks. You will pay any player. Like it's like Huff. All they're hoping is Huff can do what Haason Reddick has done. If Huff gets 10 sacks, the Eagles are going to be happy. There's a much better chance that Haason Reddick's getting double-digit sacks this year than Huff, at least in my opinion.
Oh, well, Reddick's gonna be on the field more.
Yeah, well, I don't know how many snaps. I don't know how many snaps
he's here.
Yeah, I don't know how many. I don't know if the percentage of his snaps are similar to what Huff was playing.
They can't be.
No, he's got to play more. Let me see. No, he was percentage of snaps, and they don't do it. They just do it by games. I'm on Pro Football Talk. But he's 73%, 67%, 66, 67, 68, 72, 82, 80, 86, 87. Yeah, and Huff's 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, he had, I mean, you look at some of the games, just trying to see in big games what he did here. Had 2 sacks against the Rams. Yeah, he went on a run. 2 sacks against the Rams, 2.5 against the Jets, 1 against Washington, 1 against Dallas, 1 against Kansas City, 2 against Dallas. Yeah, so he had 3 sacks against the Cowboys last year. Man, it's pretty freaking good.
Yeah, how many of you would be bitching when that we don't have that next year?
Right. All right. Yeah, I mean, slightly above average last year. No, I don't agree with that. He had 11 sacks. Did he have 2022? No, he didn't have that year. But I mean, what's to me? All right. So what's above average? 8 sacks.
He was almost top 10 in the NFL in sacks.
Right.
Top 10 was 12 and a half.
Yeah, I just like, and here's all I'm saying is that if the Eagles don't want to extend him because they don't want to pay him $150 million, they don't want to give him $70 million guaranteed or whatever. Totally understand. Right? Haason Reddick's going to come in and play. And I don't think he's going to come in and be a dick and be a distraction. He's never come off being like that. He could be mad. These players know how to handle themselves. You don't get, this isn't a TO situation or anything like that.
The way I judge that is I don't know his voice. Like I couldn't point his voice out from once. Like that's why I know he doesn't bitch and complain to the media like that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, so there you have it. That's the latest on Haason Reddick. What's other thing? One I was reading. One writer said that Atlanta stands out, though they recently committed a ton of money to their quarterback. They were in the edge market early in free agency and didn't come away with anybody. Definitely a team to watch. Also, Arizona, I saw mentioned as well, because they have a need. And Jonathan Gannon, he had his best season under Jonathan Gannon.
Yep.
Go back to Arizona.
The irony.
Right. See, here's the thing. If these teams are willing to give him the contract, of course he's going to want that. But if everybody's kind of in the same boat of being like, "Hey, we'd love to have you, and we can talk about it. We could talk about an extension, but we're not going to give you what you're asking," I just think he'd be foolish to leave. This is a great spot for him.
And like you said, it's your hometown, dude. You're from around the corner. You're a Temple kid. Come on.
It makes too much sense. So I hope they can figure it out for this year, because if you're in everybody should be in the business of the Eagles are going to win a. I just saw off the post.
That's like the 5th post of the game.
If Eagles are going to get back to 2022, Haason Reddick needs to be on this team.
Oh, Christ.
So, well, there you go. With that, hold on a second. I wanted to bring one up here before we move on. Well, Surfer Joe, in the background,
that's a new one.
In the background, it's actually what I said before is like, well, how can everybody think that this is actually my real background if it's lights all the time? So Surfer Joe, a lot of people actually believe that this is the background of my house, and they think that that's my grand piano and I'm rich. Little do they know what my house looks like upstairs. Not that I don't have a nice house, but it's definitely not that house. So that's just a background, because my background otherwise is it's a gray wall, and people complained about that. I haven't had complaints since I put the background up. Delco Steve.
That's very true.
It is very true. All right, I saw this, and then we'll move on to some other stuff here. I saw that, and it was what was it here? $58 million. The key word is up to $58 million. Jerry Jeudy and the Browns. Browns traded for Jerry Jeudy. They extended him 3-year, $58 million. I didn't see the guaranteed money on that. There's no way it's $58 million. That's for sure. Jerry Jeudy hasn't been great. He's been okay. If I was a team that needed a wide receiver, and I was saying
41 for fully guaranteed.
41 fully guaranteed.
Yep.
So really a 2-year contract. They can get out of it after 2 years, and they just pay they pay some dead cap. Yeah, I'm not a huge Jerry Jeudy fan, but I mean, he probably was affected being in Denver with bad quarterbacks and whatever, but he can't stay healthy.
I was saying, and he had the injuries.
Yeah, I wouldn't be interested in that, but but here's what I thought of, which is Flyers now only up 3-2 as Delco Steve is squirming. So Devontae Smith, and this is something to watch, because Devontae is entering his 4th year now. So they own the 5th-year option on him, where he would make a really nice sum of money for the 5th-year option. I should look it up right now. It's probably north of 20. But if they're trying, and if I'm the Eagles, and you look at his last 2 years, had almost 1,200 yards and 95 catches in 2022.
15.5.
15.5. All right, yeah. So he makes big money on that 5th-year option.
Fully guaranteed.
He's not going to be happy if he's not. We're talking about Haason Reddick. He's not going to be happy unless he gets extended. So if he goes into that 5th year without a contract, he's going to be pissed. So when you look at the guy like Jerry Jeudy is, do we agree that Devontae Smith? So you have AJ Brown tier 1, you have Devontae Smith tier 2, and then Jeudy might be a tier 4 or a tier 3 or somebody like that.
He's hard to even peg at this point, because when he pops, he's really good. But then, like you said, when he's not on the field, it's just, or when he's coming back from injury, it's just, it's not good.
It's the reason why
I like him as a player, but I just need to see more of those flashes than some of the downturns.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's a better receiver than, say, a Gabe Davis, but he also hasn't really
100%.
He hasn't shown it, right? And a lot of that is that he can't stay healthy, but he also has had drops. And I know this because of fantasy football. And I
definitely think I definitely agree with you. I think he's had some lackluster efforts with those quarterback situations.
So that's why I'd be interested in him, but still, so I look at that and I'm like, all right, if he's getting $40 million guaranteed over a 3-year contract, what the hell's Devontae Smith worth? right? Like
Yeah.
he's had 2 straight years of over 1,000 yards. He makes catches that not a lot of guys can make. He's surprising with how athletic.
He's one of the best route runners probably in the
Man.
NFL.
And he's only going to get better. So if there's a guy that you want in that second contract, it's you don't have to worry about Devontae Smith getting fat and rich and getting that contract and not being. He is so focused on being just like an assassin out there. I love the kid. I really do.
The real problem is going to be is when he does sign that contract, because of inflation after a couple of years, it's going to be more than what AJ Brown makes. And then AJ Brown's going to be a problem all over again.
So here's the question. I don't think AJ Brown gets a second contract with this team.
Well, I'm not even getting to that point. I'm saying as soon as AJ does sign, then it's going to be, well, now we're at a crossroads with AJ.
So can you afford to pay $50 million a year to 2 wide receivers? That's essentially what you're going to have to pay.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
In the modern day NFL, yeah, you can.
Well, I know Howie just,
and the
salary cap's bullshit anyway.
What's it, 280 something right now? It's going to be almost 300 next year. It's only going up.
Oh, man. It's still a lot. If it's 300 and you commit $50 million, and I know it's cap number, but still, you're talking about like a sixth of your salary going to wide receivers. Man, you can find wide receivers. I know the Eagles can't, but you can find wide receivers in the second round. That's the problem. And by the way,
that is 100% the problem.
And by the way, that's why it was a brilliant move by Howie to go out and spend a first-round draft pick to get a guy. Because you got a guy. AJ Brown's unbelievable.
Yeah, and he's still only like in his mid-20s.
He's 20. He's 20. He'll be 27 this year.
Yeah, he's still in his prime. It's not like you're trading for a first-round pick for T.O. at 31 or something like that.
So his cap hit after this year goes to $26 million. So they'll either move on from him or they'll redo the contract. See, that's what I'm saying. Then they're going to redo AJ. But then Devontae is going to want a new contract too. All I'm saying is that, and I can tell you this, Devontae may not show it like AJ Brown does. Don't throw the ball to Devontae Smith. He's as unhappy as AJ Brown. He's just not unprofessional on the field. That dude just he's pissed. So don't think for a second that Devontae is mild-mannered and he's going to be, no, he's going to be mad as hell if he doesn't get a contract. So these are all things to think about when you're looking ahead, and because it's hard to pay everybody. And it's one of the reasons why Howie probably doesn't want to pay Haason Reddick. So there you go. Poor Delco Steve and the Flyers.
They're getting by on the skin of their teeth right now.
Dean Dingman, AJ will not sign another contract with the Eagles. Can they sign both? Devontae's not going anywhere. I totally agree with that, because then they can franchise him too. So that's part of the negotiation and the leverage that the Eagles have. They can say, okay, well, we have the 5th-year option, and then we control you on the franchise tag for up to 2 years. So really, we have you under club control for this many years. And he'll make big numbers if it was a franchise tag.
You want to talk about spending $50 million on a receiver. You're going to be almost doing that by yourself with Devontae Smith on the franchise tag.
And like you were saying, let's look 2 years into the future. What are these receivers making in 2 years? Yeah, edge rushers went from making $15 million to $20 million to $25 million to $30 million. What are wide receivers? Wide receivers used to be, they weren't highly paid. Corners and running backs now have been ones that have taken, and linebackers as well. They've taken the free agent corners it's not a big market every year, because the good ones usually get gobbled up by the teams, but there's just not big money in corners anymore, unless you're like really, really good.
Goal time.
All right. So the Flyers are now up 4-2.
I'm surprised. I just pulled up the top average salaries for wide receivers. I'm surprised AJ Brown's still number 4. I can't believe he didn't get really surpassed yet.
Well, I'm just trying to think who would have come along that would have trumped him.
It would have just been, it was Tyreek Hill and the Devontae Adams contracts. That's it.
Yeah, and Devontae Adams wasn't worth it.
Oh, that's a lie. Well, not worth it for the Raiders, but definitely.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, it doesn't mean he's a bad player. I'll give you an example. I heard somebody talking about trading one of the top picks, not the Bears, but the Patriots. Like, well, if you're the Patriots and you have so many needs on your team, why wouldn't you just trade the 3rd overall pick? There's going to be teams that are really interested in getting one of these 3 quarterbacks, and then you can rebuild your roster, and then a quarterback will come along or whatever. And then I heard it was a former GM that was saying it. He said that if you look at like a team that say you trade the pick and you get 2 first-round draft picks and you get a second-round draft pick, right? You can literally you can draft Hall of Fame players. Like Joe Thomas of the Browns. Did they win a playoff game or whatever? I
don't think they won one.
Calvin Johnson. Hall of Fame players. If you don't have a quarterback, you can literally draft Hall of Fame players with the draft picks you get. And if you don't have a quarterback, it doesn't mean anything. So it's so important that you value that quarterback. And so it's going to be hard to move off of AJ if he's being a dick and there's a problem that's going on in the locker room, which some of us maybe think that there's some chemistry issues. We'll see, but there's no doubt that he's one of the best weapons in football. we waited so long to get this guy in here, and now we have him and Devontae Smith. It's unbelievable. So, all right, there you go. What else do I have here for a second? Oh, so Steve was looking at we kind of re-racked the schedule. Is that last night? Yeah, I guess it was last night. So we said, all right, first wave of free agency's over. Do we look at the schedule any differently than we did before free agency? Because I'll be the first one to admit it, that I had like a little bit of a negative tone, or like you still had the bad taste in your mouth from the way the season ended for the Eagles. Right. So it was hard when you looked at after the season was over, after the Super Bowl was over, before free agency, when you looked at their opponents, you don't know where they fall right now, but when you look at the opponents and you try to decide how many wins you think they're going to get, you're kind of like, maybe 9, maybe 10. Then they have a big free agency. So last night we went back through the games and we were going back and forth about how many games they would win in the division. Right, Steve? So you went back and you kind of looked in a couple of years. When was the last time the Eagles were undefeated in the division? And we'll throw it out there for the chat as well.
Yeah, I'll let them see if we get some guesses here real quick. But the 19 seasons that I went back and looked at, well, I kind of just gave away the answer now. So 2004, yeah, now I did. 2004 was the last year, the Super Bowl year, where they went 6-0 in the division.
2004.
Yep, and then the following year they came back with 1-5.
Yeah, well, Donovan got hurt that year.
Yeah.
So and T.O. But so man, so you have to go all the way back to 2004. So you're going back 20 years. So I was looking at it like this because we had a lot of people in the chat last night that were saying Washington stinks, Giants stink, Cowboys are washed up, Eagles will easily go 5-1, 6-0, 4-2, worst case. Even the Super Bowl year, the most recent Super Bowl that they lost, they were 14-3. 2 of those losses were to divisional opponents. They lost to the Commanders and they lost to the Cowboys. So even when you have Eagles were great that year. Even when you have a great team, there's just always something weird with those division games. So have you now changed? What did you have them going, 4-2 or 5-1?
I had them going 4-2. 4-2. I think I pick 4-2 every year for the division.
A little bit better than 500.
If I think we're good, I say we win the home games and we lose one against the Giants and Redskins and we split with the Cowboys every year. And so since the Super Bowl, they've went 4-2 7 times. So out of 19 seasons.
So they went 7. Wow, okay.
So they went 0-6 once, 1-5 once, 2-4 4 times, 3-3 only twice, then 7 times 4-2, 4 times 5-1.
All right, I got to look in 2021. Let's see. I also don't want to, like, the COVID years are almost like that's year or two there, which it was a little bit weird. All right, so 2021, they lost to Dallas, lost to the Giants.
That was one of the 3-3 years.
That was the 3-3 year. Lost to the Cowboys again. Yeah, and that's man. And the Giants are never really, except when they win the Super Bowl, they're never really good outside of that. So, yeah, I mean, I still look at it. I look at it 4-2. I can't imagine that they would lose. They would go 3-3 because that'd mean they'd have to either get swept by the Cowboys, which I guess is possible, and then lose one of the other games.
It's the NFL. Anything's possible.
They almost got swept by the Cowboys this year.
Yeah, I was getting on a plane for that game where they almost choked it. So I'm watching it. They're winning, no problem. Get on the plane. They start to choke it, take off. Now I have no idea what happens. I have to wait till I land in Philly to figure out if they win the game.
Oh, you didn't know it? Oh,
no.
They did it. The Cowboys did. The Cowboys, and the crazy thing about that game was next day, the sentiment was from the national people like, man, the Cowboys, they really played hard. They almost won that game. And it was like,
it wasn't that we waxed them in the first half.
Well, no. The expectation is so bad for the Cowboys that everybody just expects them to blow it, that they're like, wow, they almost beat the Eagles. They gave away the game. They should have won the game. How many opportunities they had inside Eagles territory, inside the 30 and the 20? You know how they lost that game? Because they're the fucking Cowboys and they suck. That's the only way they lose that game. Meanwhile, the next day, it's like, oh, yeah, the Cowboys, they almost won that game. The Eagles are fortunate to win that game. They tried to give that game away. The Cowboys wouldn't take it. Stinks. So, I'm not saying the Cowboys are going to win a Super Bowl. I don't believe that. But you also had, the Cowboys have done well against the Eagles. The Cowboys offense has done well against the Eagles. So I would have to believe. So hold on a second. We believe this Eagles defense is now fixed. Is that what everybody's saying?
Right.
The Eagles defense is fixed. You have the same freaking personnel with a couple of good additions, but you have the same personnel otherwise. CJ, okay, he's been injured the last 2 years. Haason Reddick may not be on this team. So, the Cowboys are very much in the hunt for one of the top 3 teams in the NFC right now. With the Eagles, with who are the other teams that San Francisco,
Niners,
obviously.
Lions, Packers.
Yeah, I think the Lions are going to be good too. They're going to be good again this year.
We were talking about the Rams being a potential step forward, but even without Aaron Donald.
Right, they might trade for Haason Reddick. That's another team that's been mentioned with Haason Reddick. Well, there you go. All right, well, speaking of Dak Prescott, we'll get to that coming up in a second. But, Steve, it's coming up on Sunday. It's the Nicole Gallo 5K run and walk, the 9th annual. It's in honor of Steve's sister, Nicole. All proceeds going towards the Nicole Gallo Sunshine and Bubbles Scholarship, and giving scholarships out at Bonner and Prendy. And it's a Sunday. The weekend includes a 5K through Drexel Hill, kids fun and run, which I'll be doing with my kids, music and food to follow. And hold on, there's a mass. So you guys go to church in the morning?
No, it's the day before. I don't go.
You don't go?
No.
When was the last time you took confession?
Oh, over a decade and a half.
Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. It has been 30.
Let's just start all over again.
35 years since my last confession, probably.
I've committed most of my sins in the time frame of not going to confession. So let's be honest here.
Right. Well, I always thought it was funny, and I didn't go to Catholic school. I went to CCD. So you don't have religion class or anything. You don't really know you don't really know anybody. You're only there one night a week for an hour or whatever. So, but you know the priest. So you're like, oh, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? So you go in, you lie to the priest. So your first act, what you're learning in the Catholic Church is to lie to the priest and make things up. Because when you're 7 years old, I would say I was mean to my mom or I didn't clean up my toys. I don't have any real sins. I'm not committing adultery. I'm not doing drugs. I'm not stealing or coveting my neighbor's wife. I'm a 7-year-old.
You could be at 7.
Yeah. So the first thing you do as a Catholic,
Stacy's mom next door. You never know.
Well, I didn't get to grow up with Stacy's mom next door, but anyway. So Steve will not be attending the mass. However, if you go to his Twitter page, Gallo3310, he has put out a tweet. He's tweeted, everybody. He has tweeted, but the tweet's there. I believe it's pinned at the top of his account. If you can donate, because they have given 60 scholarships or financial aid relief through the 9 years, or now this will be the 9th year, to students and families that need it, which is very, very important. So get out, donate, come out if you want to do the run and everything else. But again, he has Steve tweeted out all the information. You can click on it to get more information or to donate or do whatever else. So go to his Twitter, Gallo3310.
Father Sean is very disappointed with us right now.
Yeah. Well, sorry, Father Sean. Yeah, there's a caller to Missinelli show. Maybe some of you guys out here remember this, that he called in his father. I think it was Father Patrick. Maybe Vince remembers this. Was it Father Sean? Was that who he's talking about? But he called.
I have no idea.
So he used to call in, and after a while, he played this. He said he was a priest. After a while, I'm like, this guy's full of shit. He's not actually a priest. I just don't think he's a priest. So I ruined the bit by asking him, because I started saying, like, I don't think this guy's really a priest. And Mike's like, he's a priest. I'm like, I don't think he's really a priest. I'm like, I think this is all bullshit. And yeah, so it was Father Sean. He was a fraud. Anyway, so like finally on the air, I'm like, all right. And I Googled some question because I don't know anything. I Googled something and he hung up and he never called back because he didn't have the answer to it. And if he would have been a priest, he would have obviously known the answer.
Right.
Total fake. And
he had to be quick with the search, man. You gotta pick that up. And
oh no, bro! I totally torpedoed. He hung up and he was like, "Oh," and he hung up, and we never heard from him again. And it was not Pat Egan, and it was not his brother. Believe me, Mike has no idea about these bits. I've talked about this before. Mike had no idea that Dwayne from Streetsboro was fake. I even tried to tell him, and he didn't. He wouldn't believe me. So there you go. And it was not Josh Innes either. So, all right, there you go. All right, so what do we have here? So, what's up with Tad Prescott, man? Other than he's a total loser, and if Dak was, maybe Dak has told him to stop, but he rips the Cowboys. He's always saying something out there. So he's on the I Am Athlete podcast. Have you ever watched that or listened to that?
Nah.
Or it's popular though, right? I mean, I see a lot of clips from it or whatever. Who's even on it? The I Am Athlete. Is that Ryan? Is that Ryan Clark or I don't know, man. I don't really watch or listen to a whole lot of podcasts.
Yeah, I don't have much time outside of my You Better You Bet.
Brandon. Okay, it's Brandon Marshall. Brandon Marshall, Fred Taylor, Chad Johnson is the cast. Well, it's very popular. So why they're bringing Tad Prescott on, I don't know. But here's Tad Prescott on I Am Athlete.
Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen.
So he's asked the top 5 quarterbacks or the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL right now.
I still hold Aaron Rodgers as the top 5 quarterback. Joe Burrow.
Jalen Hurts.
You said quarterbacks, not running backs.
Ooh.
But he had Lamar in there, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what everyone said? Isn't that what everyone says about Lamar? Okay.
Who was up there?
Tua.
Still
Right
hold
there,
Matt
bro.
Stafford up there. Jared Goff has definitely come up in my ranks. That's 9. Matt Stafford. I would actually put Goff above Stafford. And then 10. I don't know if I have a 10th guy. I really don't. Maybe Flacco. I thought he still has a ring in play. You could throw Russell Wilson there too, but I don't know.
What's with brothers of quarterbacks just being total,
Pat Mahomes' brother, Jackson.
Yeah. Flyers won, by the way.
Yeah, I saw. There you go. I actually have it. I have it up on the TV. The only reason why is I can't find True TV. I don't have I don't have down here. It's a streaming TV, so it's not as easy to navigate because the guide is kind of like Fugazi guide. So I was flipping through trying to find True TV. I haven't watched True TV since I used to watch Forensic Files. You remember Forensic Files was a thing on True TV. My friend was actually in an episode of Forensic Files.
Why?
Because he was trying to be an actor for like a 5-year period. So he would do casting calls or whatever came up, and he would.
Yeah.
And he was, I guess he like kidnapped a little boy or something.
Oh Christ!
No.
That's not the role you want. No. Not real life.
He didn't kidnap a little boy, but I think he killed the mom. And the little boy, when he saw him, started screaming and yelling. They're like, "Hey, he must realize," because like in the flashback, he like reaches in the car and goes like, oh, like trying to be like cute with the kid, and the kid's like, ah. But anyway, yeah, I don't know where True TV is because I wanted to see 2 really average college teams that are in the play-in games or whatever they call it these days. So.
The first 4.
Is that what it is? Yeah, I just so actually let's talk about this now. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much interest do you have? How much interest do you have in the tourney?
Scale 1 to 10, like 4. I used to be so into it, man.
Why? Why? Because I'm the same way.
I just don't know the player. Wait, I think the NBA changing it as much, and there's not as many studs as there used to be. Like I remember watching and being like, "Oh, this guy. I want to see this guy play." So like Steph at Dayton was like must see TV when the tournament came around because you didn't see him all year, but you knew he was doing stuff. But I don't know, man. There's just not the players. There's not the draw for me anymore. I feel like a lot of the great players aren't even from here as much, or not like popping in college as much before they get to the NBA.
It's totally different.
And it's like a lot of the great players are international players now.
I can watch the tournament. I'll be very interested in the tournament, but I don't, like you had said, I don't follow college basketball really at all. I was listening to an interview with Jeff Goodman, who longtime ESPN college basketball writer, but now I think he's with Stadium. But he was talking about the difference that the NILs have made in college basketball, and he specifically was talking about Tom Izzo at Michigan State. Izzo didn't want to do the NILs. He didn't, and they have plenty of deep-pocketed donors. The Suns owners, a Michigan State guy, Dan Gilbert from Cleveland's a Michigan State guy. If he wanted $100 million, he could probably get it to pay players, but he didn't want to do it. So these schools that are resisting paying the players, they're learning the hard way that you're not going to be able to compete with how it is. Because now it's essentially every player is on a one-year contract. Every college player is on a one-year contract. It's like this in football too.
I mean, look what happened to Clemson. Clemson's falling apart in the last few years.
And Dabo Swinney better change it. He better leave then because he's going to lose, right? Because So Nick Saban actually, in an interview he did with ESPN long after he retired, he said that after they lost in the semifinal game, and guys were like, it didn't hit the same way. It didn't hit guys the same way. And then after that, when he's having the conversations at the end of the season, the questions he's getting was, like, how much playing time am I getting this year? Am I starting? And how much money are you going to pay me? Because they're free agents. That they don't have to wait. They can go wherever they want to, and they just go out and shop themselves. They go in the transfer portal. And that's what it is. And that's what collegiate athletics, at least football and basketball, has turned into. So you look at it right now. I don't know if it makes college basketball different. It really does. I don't think it helps that guys can just move around from year to year. I don't think players should necessarily have to sit out a year to transfer. But when it's like this, where they're just on one-year contracts and they can go wherever the hell they want. So now players are like, all right, well, even the players that aren't great are getting $300,000 to go transfer and be like an average starter on a team somewhere. So it's different. It really is. But it's interesting that the Big Five has been as bad as it has been the last couple of years. You have no team for the second straight year in the tournament. And there was a lot of years where you would get Penn would be in, Temple would be in, Nova would be in, Drexel would be good. St. Joe's was always a contender to be in the tournament. Who did I leave out?
Drexel? Did you say Drexel?
Well, that's like
LaSalle.
LaSalle. Yeah, LaSalle was back in the 90s, or they had the Southwest Philly floater. They had that year, whenever that was, a couple of years ago. But yeah, it's just not the same. Villanova's in the NIT this year. And
Villanova's been terrible.
Well, since Jay Wright left.
Yep.
But some programs, Jay Wright came in. Villanova won a national championship, and with Steve Lapis, they were still highly ranked. But then they went real fast. Jay Wright came in, and you worry he was the program. And Kyle Neptune comes in.
He definitely was the program. He definitely was the program.
And why do you think he got out when he did? NIL's like a good time to get out. He's burned out.
Well, he got out a couple of years before NIL, didn't he? At this point,
this is Neptune's second year, so they knew it was coming.
Okay, yeah. So it's the 2 years of NIL, then, yeah.
Yep. But I grew up. I remember the '85 Nova team, and that was an amazing run. And I remember watching that. I remember where I was watching that game. But the '87-'88 Temple Owls was my team. I love that team. Absolutely love that team. John Chaney, if you were to make me do a Mount Rushmore of Philadelphia athletes or coaches, John Chaney, as far as who I love, John Chaney's right there. Larry Boa, John Chaney, probably number 1 and 2. on the list. John Chaney never made a Final Four. He made so many eights, so many Elite Eights, and he just couldn't get over the hump. But that was really, really good college basketball. Lionel Simmons, when he went to LaSalle, I mean, LaSalle was nationally ranked. Now, Loyola Marymount had a bunch of Philly players in Hank Gathers and Bo Kimball. All the teams were factors, all of them. So Philly basketball was unbelievable. And now it's like, something like Temple made a run. They were under 500 the entire year. They almost made it to the tournament. They got crushed in the championship game. Nova stinks.
What if they were sandbagging everyone with that betting stuff so they could sneak in at the end?
Dude, how do you go from almost being accused of throwing games to all of a sudden you're good?
Wait, I didn't hear anything about them from the time we talked about it until I saw Temple in championship game. I'm like, wait, weren't they terrible? Weren't they losing? Weren't they accused of losing games on purpose?
There was questionable money being wagered against Temple. They were flagged. Their lines were flagged.
I literally couldn't believe that the 2 times I heard about them in the last week was, they're losing games on purpose to, they're in the A-10 or whatever championship game.
Yeah, it's wild. It is. And if you Google Temple basketball betting, there's been nothing updated since it was originally reported. There's been no follow-up because I guess there's no additional information.
I was going to say, what if it just stopped? It's like The Wire. As soon as it gets leaked, it's like everyone disappears. Everyone stops doing it.
Isn't it a little bit of a coincidence? They go from being a terrible team to where now everybody's worried that they're going to be accused of throwing it. They almost make the tournament.
It's like they start, wait, we actually have to play. Like, guys, let's win a game or two.
No, seriously, doesn't it make it more suspicious that they turned it around since they were accused of more or less shaving points?
Yep.
Jesus Christ.
All right. Now they told everyone to start betting on them. All right, we're going to go balls out now. We're going to win these games.
Yep. Yeah, they almost make the tournament.
I wish I got the memo. That would have been awesome.
Unbelievable. Yeah, seriously.
Where's the insider trading, man? Come on.
So does anybody out there, people in the chat, or if you comment on YouTube after the fact, if you're not watching this live, does anybody take off work anymore? I can take off work, so I don't have a job. Does anybody take off work anymore? I used to take off Thursdays and Fridays. I did.
I actually took off Friday last year, and I'm actually taking off Friday from this year and from the show too. So,
right, you're going to be going to a bachelor party, but the idea was to watch tournament games.
Yep,
with your dudes.
Yep, pretty much. We're gonna go lock ourselves in a house in the mountains and watch college basketball. Me for one night, but everybody else for the whole weekend.
And I don't remember if it was 4th or 5th grade. Might have been both. But I had a male teacher in 4th grade and a male teacher, or maybe it was both 4th grades. Anyway, they were huge sports fans. And still to this day, like I went to school with their kids as well. We were about the same age. But they let me, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, they let me during lunch, during the first days of the tournament, they let me come and watch the games. They went like the
that's awesome
or whatever, and they let me come in with my lunch, and it was me and a couple of the other dudes. They're like, "Yeah, come in." They knew I was a big sports fan, and we watched the games with them. And it's still something, 40 years later or 35 years later that I still remember and I appreciate it. And actually, I brought it up to his grandson. Believe it or not, I went to my high school for career day, and I saw my teacher's grandson. And I told him, I watched the tournament with your grandfather, and it was like the coolest thing ever. Yeah, Mr. Rampool and Mr. Grant. They were awesome. So that's like my first memory of the tournament, really, like how awesome it was to be able to watch every game. But
yeah, my first thing was I actually got one of my teachers to let us do like a class bracket, like a contest sort of thing, and that's where my degeneracy probably started.
Yeah. It started with that.
Yeah, like 6th grade. I was like, can we do a bracket and whoever wins something? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, meanwhile,
do you still fill out a bracket?
No.
Yeah, last year was the first year I didn't do it.
So when I had said this, people were being assholes about it. They're like, "Oh, you're too cool for the brackets." It's like, so what do you want me to do?
I don't know anything.
Yeah, like what do you want me to do? You want me to just fill something out blindly? Like, do you want me to do a 5-12 and just do the token, whatever you pick, or go all chalk? Why? I don't want to do it. I'll watch the games. I have no interest in doing a bracket. Whatever.
I'll be locked into the Final Four in the championship game just because I like those games. But it's the whole thing. Like I'm gonna watch. I'm going to bet on some games individually probably, but for the bracket, I don't know enough about it anymore. I used to be locked in all year and knew every player, and it's like, I don't know. I don't like talking out my. I mean, I talk out my ass enough as it is. I don't need to do it intentionally.
You don't need to be Charles Barkley, right? Like
Yes.
Charles doesn't know any of these players, and they still put him on because he's entertaining, and he doesn't need to know any of the players, right? So
Yeah.
I enjoy. Kenny seems to know a lot of the guys or whatever, but anyway,
I just don't know enough about it. Like I contemplated doing a heads or tails. Like heads is the higher seed, tails is the lower seed.
Yeah,
the whole thing. But I didn't feel like wasting my time. That felt like too much time and effort.
I don't have any interest in it. So this is Justin in Tennessee. Believe it or not, I don't know if this is actually true, but you get the story every year that you get the most vasectomies done on the Thursday and the Friday of the NCAA tournament. It's a good time to get it done. Snip, boom. Now you're like, well, honey, I can't go anywhere. I have to lay on the couch with peas on my junk.
And then next year you get it the next year you get it reversed on that Thursday, and you just keep doing that every other year.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
Built-in excuse.
Or you can just say, hey, I'm taking off of work and watching. I guess it's a good time to do it. All right, a couple of other things here. All right, so Tom Brady's very petty. You would agree with that?
100%.
Towards Nick Foles. So, and he's probably Eli Manning as well. He may never utter Eli Manning. But if you remember, Brady never shook
He's
Nick
boys
Foles'
with Eli
hand.
Manning, though. He's friends with Eli Manning because of
right.
Peyton.
That's
He
right.
He has to kind of kiss his ass a little bit.
So I don't know how many instances it was, but because he beat him as a bear too. Tom Brady wouldn't shake Nick Foles' hand. So even in the regular season game that they lost, he just took right off the field. He won't mention his name. And he's had fun with it because he's been asked about it. Because Eagles fans, of course, will hammer him about it.
Yep.
So they had this documentary called Dynasty. It was I don't even know, was it Netflix or Prime? I don't even know what it was.
I think it's HBO.
Is it HBO? Well,
I'm not positive.
Everything that I read about it was that it was like 6 episodes too long, and it didn't really give an accurate depiction. And it was very Robert Kraft. I think Robert Kraft's company produced it. It didn't cover a lot of things. It made Bill Belichick look bad. It made Robert Kraft look good. It was a lot of Bill against Tom. I saw Rodney Harrison and Devin McCourty both. Devin McCourty they both played with the Patriots for a long time. They said that they were interviewed for 5-6 hours, and they were like little snippets that were used, and it was all negative things that they felt like were almost taken out of context to try to make Bill look bad. I didn't watch a second of it.
No, and I won't either.
And I never will watch a second of it. But
that is probably my most hated run of teams ever.
God.
It's like, so there's no way I'm watching a documentary on them.
No. I would like to get an unauthorized documentary on the Patriots. I would love to get an unauthorized Deflategate, Bountygate, Aaron Hernandez.
Yep, I was about to say Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah, Robert Kraft getting a hand job at the Washi or whatever.
About that.
That wasn't mentioned. I mean, there was a lot of shit that was going on up in New England during those years. Of course there would be. They won 6 Super Bowls. But so this documentary was everybody that I read that was more or less like, yeah, the first couple episodes were all right, but for the most part it was crap. So here's how Tom Brady, and here's how they handled the Super Bowl and Nick Foles in the documentary. Listen.
So we have a situation here in this Apple TV Patriots show.
So this is a tweet.
Level of
Apple TV. There we go.
that I have never seen before.
All right, so pause this for a second so we can explain the setup. So we saw this. I saw this on Crossing Broad. Somebody is taking a video of watching it, and he's explaining it. So that's who's speaking right now, right there.
The word Foles from the touchdown call by Al Michaels during the Philly special. This is the call by Michaels, obviously saying the word Foles because he's the one who got the touchdown.
They're going to snap it, and it's Trey Burton who throws caught. Foles, touchdown.
Caught Foles, touchdown. So what does the Apple show do? caught
Wow.
touchdown. They edited out the word Foles. It took them longer to do that than just to play the thing anyway. I don't know why they did that. Maybe because Tom Brady participated in the stock and he's still bitter about losing to that man in the Super Bowl. Maybe it was something else. All I know, super, super petty.
Not something else. 100%. I don't want to hear his name. And I honestly, Steve, I wear it like a badge of honor. I love the fact
You do.
I actually love I love Tom Brady because he's that petty. Tom Brady is you don't get to be the best of all time at quarterback if you're not petty and you're not maniacal like that. This dude is as maniacal as it gets. He'll sit up there on those press conferences and talk about how great this team's defense is, and walk off the podium and say, "I want to kill those motherfuckers," and they suck and whatever else. Tom Brady, like I wear this like a badge of honor. I am so happy that if there's one memory in Tom Brady's career where he looks back and he can't get over it, it's freaking Nick Foles and the Eagles beating him in the Super Bowl. Bam. And he's on my back. Good point, John Jay.
I also want to give Justin a shout out because he sent me that last night, and I knew we were going to end up talking about this today. So thanks, Justin.
Yep, he dude, like I'm telling you, you know that it bothers them. They're going to edit out Nick Foles' name. Like they can't even have his name.
I need Foles. I need Foles to play in a game that Brady calls next year.
Seriously,
could you imagine them being like, "Hey Tom, can you break down the play of the quarterback for this team wearing number 9 that he's not going to say his name?"
You know what he wouldn't do? They wouldn't do the game.
No, like I need it to be like, oh, it's locked in. They have an emergency quarterback they call Foles. Like so.
No, I know. I just think Brady would say, "I'm not doing the game." Any game that Foles.
Oh, I'm sick.
Right, just like the assignment is that you're not going to do that.
I'm getting a vasectomy that day. I can't show up.
Right. I don't even know if Tom Brady's good. Is he really going to do Fox? I don't think he's going to be good at it. Yeah, but he has to actually do it. Is he really going to do it? He's going to suck.
I don't know. You got to wait and see. Some of these guys are great and other guys aren't.
But the thing I like about Troy Aikman, the thing that people hate about Chris Collinsworth is that Troy Aikman's honest. He's always been honest.
I love Aikman.
I think he's great. I do. I think he's great. Collinsworth gets pretty annoying.
Hate him.
But yeah, like he's annoying, no doubt about it. But like, when I tune into a game, I want to hear real analysis, and I want to hear somebody criticize when Troy Aikman feels like it's the wrong call to be made, or they should go for it, or they shouldn't go for it, or whatever, or there's a bad play call. He says it. He's critical. You need that. You need somebody being honest. Tom Brady's never been honest at all. All he ever does is fluff, 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 fluff. So now he's going to have a TV instinct as the number one analyst, by the way. He's going to be the number one analyst. I don't think with a lot of help.
It's going to be Burkholz or whatever his name is, right?
Kevin Burkhardt.
Burkhardt.
So now with social media, with everything else, now we're going to be judging every single game that he does. So if he comes out and he sucks, it's going to be, oh my God, how long can Tom Brady last? Is he going to quit after a year? Like this will be a big thing to talk about in the media and in social media. Tony Romo went from being a darling to CBS hates him now. I mean,
he's annoying. I never liked it. I never liked his call.
Neither did I. I
hated the predicting shit and just call it after. Tell me, break it down for me after. Don't tell me as it's happening. And if you're wrong, then it's just, oh, never mind.
I interviewed Kurt Warner, and because he does the radio stuff in addition to doing
he's great on the radio.
He's great. I think Kurt Warner's great. And I asked him about Tony Romo, and he said, well, John, and I remember he used my name. He said, well, John, he said, if I wanted to predict a lot of plays out there, I easily could. He's up in the booth and he sees what's happening.
It's not your job.
It's not his job. And like at first, I think a lot of people liked it because it was different. No one had done that before. But then it became annoying. And that was his only thing that he did. He had a lot of energy and he would predict the plays. But now I don't even know what he's talking about half the time. And I'm convinced he's drunk.
And he talks over Nance all the time. Wait, didn't we talk about that? How he ruined the one call?
He ruined it. We played it. He ruined the Super Bowl, the final call. He ruined it. He has no instinct, and that's what I'm saying about Tom Brady. Tom Brady is not. Does he have television instincts? I don't know how he would.
Do you think he's going to attack this the same way, like put it in the same effort or same work ethic into being great at this as he would at anything else? Do you think he's that type of person that he's like, oh, I got to be great at whatever I'm doing?
Nope. Well, no, I think he will, but I just don't. It just doesn't seem like something that he would have a passion about. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong because that's what he needs to do. He's not going to do anything half-assed. Like Romo, and Adam's right. Romo, I'm amazed at how a producer isn't even telling him, like, if something big happens in a city involving, and I'm not coming up with an example in my head, but I've noticed it so many times. He doesn't know what's happening with the team outside of like the players that are on the field. He doesn't know any storylines or if there was infighting or anything like that. It's like he shows up on Saturday, he golfs all week and doesn't pay attention, and he shows up on Saturday and does the show or the game on Sunday. He's terrible. I can't stand him. He's the worst.
CBS might be eating a big contract there, especially if Olsen wants out of Fox not being the number one.
Well, and I can tell you this, that he's and I'm not Jim Nance. I think is his. Like, Jim Nance. Is good.
I'm over. I'm over
him. I'm over him. He's so good.
He's fine he's fine for me in golf. He's fine in the NCAA tournament at points too. But
he's not doing it anymore.
Oh, he's not. He's out.
No, he's not. He's not doing the tournament. He stopped.
Is this his first year? Not doing it?
First or second. I remember I heard, I think he was on with Dan Patrick and he was talking about how he's not doing it anymore. And I don't know if that was a year or two ago, but I don't believe he is now the voice of the NCAA tournament.
He's jumped the shark for me. Him, Al Michaels, all the old guys.
Al Michaels is cooked and he's over the hill and he can't rise to the occasion to call.
And he doesn't care. He doesn't care.
Well, when you get close to 80 years old, you shouldn't be.
And he's getting paid like $15 million a year, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, Dick Stockton could step back in, Vince, and he could potentially take over. I'm telling you, I'd rather have Dick Stockton do a game than most of these guys.
I love Iron Eagle. He's great for any sport.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, he's fine. He's good. He's very broadcasty to me.
Well, my thing is, I'm just so over the old guys. So if you
me
give
too.
anyone that's not pissing me off, I like them.
All right, so Tirico's fine.
I like Tirico.
Yeah, he's fine.
He knows what he's talking about. Like when it gets to the nitty-gritty of a game, he knows the rules. He understands what he should and shouldn't be doing. He doesn't need the color guy to tell him what to do.
Yeah, no, he's a pro. And he can do a lot of different sports as well. He's good. Trying to think who, like Buck's great. Michaels is cooked. Nance, I was like Nance is good. He's
like too pretentious.
Oh my God, dude. He carries the toast thing around with him, which actually makes me like him. Do you know about this?
No.
So he has a chart with toast, with the levels of darkness with toast.
Okay.
Because he's very specific with like how he likes how his buttered toast.
I like it here.
He likes it dark. Hold on, I'm going to try to Google it right now. This is not a joke. He talks about it. Too, you know?
I've seen the exact thing before. And the people that like the 7 are like nuts.
This is actually something that I respect a great deal about Jim Nance. But hold on, let me see here. I'll share it right here. So you have the different levels of the toast. Uh-oh. What is it doing now? Yeah, continue as me. All right, so you have like I would be a level 2.
3 at most.
3 at most. 3 at most. Now, if it's rye toast, I definitely want 3 because I like the rye toast a little bit darker. As long as you get here's the key, Delco Steve. You have to get the butter on early in the process.
Oh, yeah. You can't. It's got to be. I don't want to be able to tell that there's butter on it besides the fact that it's got like the glaze.
Yeah, for sure. But so you got to have it. I can't do 4. So Nance is like a 5 or a 6.
Yeah, that's psychopath. That's psychopath material. That's serial killer material.
It's one of my most. It's one of my most passionate takes, Delco Steve. Is there's nothing that angers me more. I love going out to get breakfast. I love a good breakfast. It's difficult. It's difficult to find anymore. I like over medium eggs. Too often I'm getting eggs that the whites aren't cooked and they're runny. Of course, the Of course, the yolk should be runny, but you have to cook the whites, right? So sometimes I can't even order that anymore because people fuck it up. But like, if you're not immediately, and I worked in kitchens making breakfast for a long time. If you're not immediately, as soon as that toast comes out of the toaster, that butter needs to be applied to the toast. It's you bring out toast that's not buttered with a block of the
ice cold butter.
Yeah, like, and then you're busting the toast trying to do it. Like, no, I'm not coming back. Sorry, I'm out. That butter needs to be directly applied. And then I'll get people to argue with me and say, yeah, but what if you want butter on the side? Then order it. I don't need my experience doesn't need to be ruined because somebody might want butter on the side.
The generic order should be like what you're saying. And then if you don't want butter on your toast, if you're going to put like jelly instead or whatever, then you say, okay, can I not get butter on it? It's easy. It's an easy step.
If you
I want my bread wet.
If you don't like mayo, you know what you're going to do when you order a sandwich? You're going to make sure there's not mayo on it. You're not going to assume there's not mayo. You're going to make sure. If you don't want butter on your toast and you want it on the side, you're going to make sure you say on the side. I shouldn't have, like, first of all, I go out to eat because I don't want to make it. So if you're giving me giving me
a job to do.
Yeah, and by the way, take it out of the freaking freezer. So I'm not trying to, like, I need a lighter to defrost it. And the toast is already halfway cold because you can get lukewarm toast, but if it's buttered immediately, it's still great.
Yep.
You can't give me toast and then expect me to butter it after it's not hot. Rye toast with over medium eggs is like, that's the thing for me. Some salt in the egg yolk after you break through, some pork roll, well done pork roll.
Oh, well done
fries.
Pork roll.
Oh, you're living, man. Woo! Could go for that right now.
Good home fries are.
So do you like hash browns too, or just home fries?
I like both.
Is there a Delco spot to go for breakfast? What's the Delco spot?
Well, my spot is oh my God, coffee station over in Morton. But I'm gonna sound like a child here. It's because it's for their salted caramel French toast. Oh my God, it's so good.
Where?
It's over in Morton on 420.
Oh, dude, salted caramel French toast is unbelievable.
It's like salted caramel is crack. No, it's just the drizzle.
Oh, dude, what's the
I made a stuffed one with like a cream cheese stuffing with a salted caramel. Oh God, that was good.
There's a place there's one at Fairmount. The original one was in South Philly. I can't remember the name of it, but they make this stuffed French toast, and it's like a salted caramel stuffed French toast or something like that. I'm diabetic. I can't really eat it. It's one of the best things I've ever had. I love breakfast. Yeah, dude, I'll rock a Bob Evans. There's a Bob Evans 10 minutes from me that we'll go to. It's consistent. It's not great. You know, there's other good breakfast spots near me that are smaller places. A lot of times there's a wait. I could go to a Bob Evans. I'm good with that.
That's pretty much the only place I go though. There's some diners that are around here that are pretty good, that are very good, but they're so overpriced and there's a million people. It's just not worth the hassle.
Onions in the home fries. The Lanark Diner. I've been there recently.
Yep.
I kind of want to shower after I leave there, but it's
we used to go at 3:00 in the morning after the bar and order sandwiches.
All right, Denny's, because that's when you bring up the bar. There was a Denny's in Warminster on Street Road, and that's where we would go. And like the nonsense that went on in there on the whole restaurant, because everybody else was coming from the bar as well.
I was thinking the exact same thing. Awesome. I was like, I'm not incriminating myself anymore than that.
Yeah, I know, because I should have been arrested and put in handcuffs for things that happened in there. Seriously, so I won't either.
One of the best ones that with nothing that would get me in trouble was I was bad. I usually don't get that messed up, but I was pretty messed up this night. I asked for a giant glass of water. I knock it over, spill it right onto my roommate's lap. The girl's like, and he's like, dude, like, he's like taking care of me. He's trying to get me home. And the girl's like, nah, don't worry about it. Like, I'll bring you out another one. She brings me out another one. 2 seconds later, bang, do it all over.
You idiot.
They were not happy with me the second time.
Nope, do not like cream chip beef. I've had it. I don't hate it. I do not order it. If there's a place that I know gets a really good cream chip beef, even that I wouldn't order it. But yeah, no, I love over medium eggs, toast, home fries, pork roll. If the pork roll, and here's another thing, the bacon, but the bacon needs to be medium rare.
Bendy. It's got to be able to bend.
Well done bacon has no flavor. You need a medium rare bacon.
If you bend the bacon and it snaps, it's too cooked. It just is what it is.
No,
I want to be able to dip it in syrup and it doesn't break.
It doesn't taste like anything if you cook it too well.
Yep. Nope. Great. I agree.
Man, and that's the and like you can just taste the fat and like between your teeth, and you're like, oh my God, this tastes so good. I bought a 5-pound block of bacon because it was on when I go to the grocery store and there's the things on special because they got to sell it or they got to toss it. And I'll just put that right in the freezer. I bought 5 pounds of bacon and I just subdivided it and I put it in the freezer. Yep. So I have 5 1-pound bacons. So all you have to do, all it really needs to do is sit out for about a half hour and then you can kind of work it in between. So I have bacon, probably once a week.
I do the same thing.
Yep.
I've been on a pork roll kick the last couple of weeks, but I just bought a giant thing at BJ's last week or this week.
Man, I love pork roll. Is so good.
I can't buy pork roll in bulk anywhere. I'm so annoyed by this.
Really?
Yeah, I can't find it anywhere.
You can only get the Taylor pork that's like 4 pieces.
4 pieces or for the thick cut, 8 pieces for the thin cut.
Yeah.
But I like the thick cut all the way.
Yeah, poor Justin in Tennessee. He's wondering what's going on here with what we're talking about. He's got the Southern biscuits and gravy, taters. Yeah, I see like the biscuits and gravy's lost on me. It's like all the people that from the Southwest or from the West Coast that have the breakfast burritos. I have no interest in a breakfast burrito unless it's a bacon, egg, and cheese with ketchup.
Yeah, it's the same thing I would get just in a wrap.
yeah, you're really having a bacon, egg, and cheese in a wrap. I don't want salsa or sour cream or any of that shit.
No, agreed. But
out.
So if you make a bacon, egg, and cheese or a pork roll, egg, and cheese, what are you putting it on? What's your go-to put it on?
Long roll, hoagie roll,
everything bagel.
Well, listen, everything bagel's elite, just as an everything bagel with butter. That's an elite breakfast item.
That's also the trick, though. When you make the sandwich, you got to put butter on the bagel and then add the meat and
for
egg
sure.
And cheese. That's just like, that's the simple touches there.
When I worked at Luigi's in the Willow Grove Park Mall, and when I was like 14, when we made breakfast sandwiches, like real breakfast sandwiches, we had a grill, cooked the bacon, cooked the eggs or whatever. But so the top of the bagel, the muffin, or the toast gets buttered. And then the bottom doesn't. That's where you put the egg. Same thing with the roll. You got to butter the roll again when it's warm. And then boom.
I butter both sides because I'm a total degenerate.
Well, you should. That's delicious. I would go roll just because it's a little bit. I don't want one egg. I want multiple eggs in the roll. But like if I'm making a bacon, egg, and cheese, I'm probably just going on regular toast. But an everything bagel's elite with everything.
I love an everything bagel.
Oh, you know what they have? I saw it at the store. They have everything, and I got to try it. It's an everything bagel granola bar.
I would give that a go.
So instead of having whatever you would put on top of it, it's the everything bagel seasoning on this granola bar. So I think it's a sweet and salty thing.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that working.
I didn't buy it. I saw it. I'm like, that's really interesting.
But, well, now you got to buy it. We're gonna
have to try it.
We never did the orange iced tea review.
I thought of that the other night too.
We can do it tomorrow.
All right, whatever. All right. Anything else tonight that we wanted to get to? No, I guess that's it. Again, go to Steve's Twitter. It's Gallo3310. His sister Nicole Gallo. The 5K run and walk. It's coming up on Sunday, and all proceeds going towards the Nicole Gallo Sunshine and Bubble Scholarship. 60 students in Nicole's memory have been helped over the years. This is the 9th year, so we want to make it big this year. So
we actually had 15 signups last night, I think, and a couple donations. So
yeah,
appreciate all of you guys. I don't know if it was any of you guys, but if it was, thank you.
Cool. That's very cool. All right. So it's on his Twitter. It's pinned. Go there, click on it. Boom. Gallo3310. And it is this Sunday. I will be there with at least one of my kids. I can't guarantee 2 of the 3 will be there, but at least one of them is going to be coming with me. That's for sure. All right. We're back. We're back tomorrow night. Steve, you got a Flyers win, so you can go to bed happy.
Yes, sir. Right. I'm very happy.
All right. Subscribe, like, comment, whatever. follow at John Marks Media. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace.